We're just so glad you've chosen to worship with us today on this very special Sabbath day. We've got quite a few announcements today, but first we just want to pause and say something about last weekend. It was really incredible.
It was, Stu. Last weekend was Easter weekend. We started the weekend off
Friday night
with a wonderful worship experience. Sabbath morning was just as uplifting. We loved seeing so many of you that came out to worship with us. And
That was pretty cool. Yes.
It was, having all of them. And then Sabbath afternoon was our special annual Easter concert. And Stu, that was incredible. Your department, media, collaborated with the music department to create, for COVID, just a really worshipful experience. Stu, where can people find this if they missed it last week?
They can find it on our YouTube channel or, of course, our website. And this church is known for having great concerts, and it was no exception each and every year. And this year we were a little concerned with the COVID, but we were still able to put together something that was meaningful. And if you missed it, you go to our website or our YouTube channel.
Also, we have something very special for those of you who are thinking about getting married. We have our rules of engagement that we do twice a year. We took a little break during COVID last year, but if you're thinking about getting married or you're engaged, this will be a 4-week seminar. It's free unless you would like the marriage assessment. There is a small fee for that, but you can find out those details online. This seminar starts April the 23rd, and remember, it goes for 4 weeks.
Our next announcement is really a special announcement. We know there's a lot of you going through some very difficult times and specifically experiencing some grief. Here's Pastor Adrian Presley to share a program we're going to be starting here shortly. Here, take a look.
Happy Sabbath. This past year has been challenging for all of us, but in particular, it has been difficult for those who have lost loved ones. After the death of a loved one, you need support and encouragement. We know it hurts, and we want to help you get through this. The Loma University Church will present Grief Share, a virtual grief support group starting Friday, April 23rd through July 16th of this year for 13 consecutive Fridays from 7 to 8:30 p.m. Grief Share is a special weekly seminar and support group designed to help you rebuild your life. Now, whether you lost a loved one recently or years ago, you're invited to attend. Friends, the seminar is free, but registration is required to attend. So please go to our website as soon as possible to register at LLUC.org and look for Grief Share in the featured events. This promises to be a time of compassionate caring and sharing.
On April the 24th, we have a very special memorial service for Max Mace of the Heritage Singers. Because of COVID, they were not able to do it earlier, so we are opening it up to you all. The Mace family would like for you to be able to come and attend. However,
limited seating.
There
so
is
you will have to register.
Yes, limited seating, so you will have to register just like we do for the church services. And also, Stu, there's another way that they can...
Yeah, if there's no more seats available or you're not able to attend, we will be streaming it on the church website.
So we just encourage you to either come out and join us if there are seats still available, or watch it online. Again, it is April the 24th at 4 o'clock. Come help us celebrate an incredible life.
There are a lot of ministries that kind of work behind the scenes here at the church, and the one I'm going to mention next is no exception, but it's very important, and that's our quilting ministry. And they're asking for volunteers for April 25 in room 105, and it's just simply tying the quilts. You don't need to have any experience. This is such an important ministry. My wife, Linda, who works in NICU, they've benefited often because some of the blankets they make go to the little kids, and it's such a meaningful thing, and it's so important. You don't have to have experience. Now, if you're interested, you call the UReach office to sign up, or if you actually want to sew the quilts at home, you'll have an opportunity. You call and they'll give you a complete kit. But this is really an important ministry. Encourage you to sign up, call the UReach office for April 25 in room 105. And remember, it's a lot of fun and you don't have to have experience.
We are super excited that we are still able to meet in person. We wanted to give you an update though on registration. So registration is changing just a little bit. This is to accommodate some of the things that we have seen as far as seating goes.
We can get more people in.
We can get more people in with this program because it automatically social distance people when they register. So here's what you need to know. When you come, instead of giving your phone number, after you register, this time you are going to get a confirmation email. On this confirmation email, you're going to have a QR code. Now, what you can do is either show us this QR code on your phone from that email, or you can print it off and bring the paper. All we need is that QR code to check you in. It will be quick and fast.
So just to be clear, they're going to register sort of like they did. It's a different program.
Yes.
But they're going to get a confirmation email. And for those of you that don't know what a QR code, you've probably heard of barcodes. Well, on the paper or the email, you'll see this kind of square with some kind of weird, unexplainable symbols, I suppose. That's the QR code. You can either bring that email up on their phone and they can scan that, or you can print it out.
Nicely said, Stu. I couldn't have said it better. We sure do hope things are going well for you and your family. We hope that soon, if you have not been here to the church, that we'll see you in person. But for all of you, we love you guys. We sure hope that you have an incredible Sabbath day.
This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Good morning, church family. It is so good to be with you in person this morning. We also want to welcome our online viewers, and I say that because it's exciting because this is the first time in over a year that we are broadcasting live here at Loma University Church. And so we want to welcome you. Yeah, go ahead. We want to welcome you. We want to welcome our online viewers. And not only that, we want to welcome the presence of the Lord in this place. Because here at Loma Linda, we believe that He is here with us when we worship. So as we begin, I just invite you at this moment to begin to turn your hearts and your minds toward Him.
I invite you to kneel with me as we pray. Our God of wonder, every day you surprise us. You move in ways that are unexpected and unpredictable to us. We try to define you, but your very nature defies definition. If we've learned anything during this pandemic, it is that your ways are higher than our ways, and your thoughts are higher than our thoughts. And sometimes that frustrates us because we crave routine. And yet, your ability to surprise us means that you are able to do what we are unable to do and see what we are unable to see. You are the God who makes the impossible possible. And so we rely on you today, our God of wonder. We give to you our illnesses, our pain, our hurt, the unmet longings of our hearts, those broken bodies that have not yet been healed. And we ask, we plead, we claim your promise that you are able to heal, that you're able to mend, you're able to make new. We ask on behalf of our entire community, our country, our world, for your healing. And we also confess that we who call ourselves Christians have not always been worthy to bear your name, that we have done things and said things that have hurt you, hurt others, and hurt ourselves. And so we confess our sins to you this morning and ask that as we confess our sins, that you are holy and just God, cleanse us from all unrighteousness and make us clean. And as we offer our songs of praise and our words of worship, we ask that you receive them and impart to us your words of power. Transform our minds, our hearts, and our lives. This we pray to our God of wonder. Amen.
Well, friends, it is such a pleasure to be up here on this stage with you. I have a very special person with me. This is my oldest, Petra Rose, and today we're going to share with you a few things that we're really excited about. And one of those is the cafe in that new building. We have been going there all the time and having lunch together as a family. And now on that floor down there, it's not just the cafe that's open. The media center is bustling with activity down there. Every single day, every office is being used that could be used down there. And not only that, all of our young adult ministry activities are happening down there. So every single night, there are life groups happening there, meetings, Bible studies. And not only that, though, the amphitheater on Friday nights has hundreds of young adults being there for the night church experience. Then on Saturday evenings, our new contemporary service, Anthem, hundreds of people gathering there. Friends, that new building is being used. And it's not just a building to just use. But you see, as I hold my daughter here, it reminds me why we built that building. We built it for the next generation. We built it because we believe that God is expanding the influence of the University Church in this community, and we just needed more room to do that work. And so, friends, we do this not for ourselves and not just for the next generation, but in the midst of it all, we do it for God's glory. And so I want to tell you, friends, thank you so much for your faithfulness. Thank you for your faithfulness in giving. Thank you for remembering that we're building His future on this earth, in this place. That it isn't just an accident. It isn't just to have a monument in Loma Linda built. Wow, the University Church. No. The vision was always, how can we reach more, equip more, and see this next generation walk in faithfulness to Jesus. So I want to read you as the people thousands of years ago, God's people, were building a temple unto the Lord for His glory. David prayed a prayer, and then he said these words in 1 Chronicles chapter 29, and beginning in verse 14. But who am I and who are my people that we should be able to give as generously as this? Everything comes from you, and we have given you what comes from your hand, O Lord. Verse 16. Lord our God, all this abundance that we have provided for the building you a temple, for your holy name, comes from your hand. All belongs to you. So friends, this morning as we give out of the abundance of our heart, and we give something. One of the mottos we're starting to use here is every week something. It might be little or it might be a generous one. But friends, I'd love to see us not only pay that building off soon, but continue to fund ministries that fulfill the Great Commission to see the next generation come to faith. Thank you so much.
strength is failing, the end draws near, and my time has come. Still my soul will sing your praise unending. 10,000 years and then forevermore. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship His holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul. I worship Your holy name. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship His holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul. I worship Your holy name. I worship Your holy name. Lord, I worship Your
Good morning, boys and girls. I am so happy you have joined us this morning. I get to direct a wonderful skit, and I want you to participate by watching with us. Let me see who has written our skit. It is written by Scotty Ray, and we have some awesome actors. We have Felicia, Raphael, and Maya Yenes. Come join us.
Hi!
Action!
Once upon a time, there was a little dog named Rufus. Rufus? Hey, that's you.
Oh, sorry.
And you're a dog.
Oh. Bark, bark.
Very good, but you can also talk.
Okay, bark.
And every day, Rufus loved to play outside. Rufus would roll around in the grass. I said every day Rufus would roll around in the grass. Oh. And pick flowers and smell them. And howl at the clouds that look like cats. Very nice, but later Rufus would always get a little lonely and wished more than anything for a friend to enjoy these activities. Until one day, a cat named Zoe came by.
Roar!
I said a cat.
Tigers are cats.
Fine. And Rufus saw Zoe
The tiger.
and wagged his tail and danced and asked to be best friends.
You want to be friends?
Yes, let's be best friends.
Yay, let's go roll in the grass together.
And Rufus and Zoe became best friends and lived happily ever.
Oh, I have a phone call. Hello? Yes, I can take this over now.
But Zoe was busy, so Rufus rolled alone and then was sad. But then Zoe came back.
Roar! I'm so sorry.
But Zoe was too busy with her phone calls and her video games and work and all the things she had to do that she didn't get to know her new friend at all, not even his name.
I feel bad.
You should.
We can try again.
Really? Well then, Rufus took Zoe by the hand and they rolled in the grass together. They picked flowers and smelled them together. And they howled at the clouds that looked like cats together.
Or tigers.
But then they became the best of friends because they spent time together. The end. You can take a bow now.
Today, our reading is from Luke 24, verses 28 through 35 from the NIV. So they drew near to the village which they were going. He acted as if they were going further. But they urged him strongly, saying, "Stay with us, for it is toward the evening, and the day is now far spent." So he went in to stay with them. When he was at the table with them, he took the bread and blessed it and broke it and gave it to them. And their eyes were opened, and they recognized him, and he vanished from their sight.
They said to each other, "Did not our hearts burn within us while he talked to us on the road, and while he opened to us the scriptures?" And they rose that same hour and returned to Jerusalem. And they found the 11 and those who were with them gathered together, saying, "The Lord has risen indeed, and he has appeared to Simon." Then they told what had happened on the road and how he was known to them in the breaking of the bread.
As I've gotten older, just my good-hearted spirit has gotten so jaded, I would stop and help anybody. People who didn't need help, I was trying to help them. And through I moved out here 16 years ago, and in the years, 7, 8, 9 years into living here in the city, the hustle and bustle and traffic, you get jaded, you see terrible things all the time, and you can't stop always and help. A few years ago, I'm not exactly sure how many years, I woke up, and there's the term wrong side of the bed. I was clinically on the wrong side of the bed. It was right, I would probably guess my midlife crisis began maybe that morning, I'm not sure. And I didn't want to do anything that morning. It was Sabbath morning. I didn't want to go to church. I wanted to stay in bed. Forced myself to grow a little bit, and I got dressed. I went to church. Sat down, Randy was speaking, and the gist of his sermon that morning was there are people who know what's right in this world, who know what's right by the laws of man and by the laws of God, and there are people who do what's right. There's a difference between knowing and doing. And out of his whole 30-minute sermon or so, the one part he kept repeating that really stuck in my head is there are people who know and there are people who do. And abbreviated version of what stuck in my head was, there are people who do, there are people who do, and just kept repeating. I didn't feel any better after church. I live close to Mount Rubidoux in Riverside. It's about a 3-mile hike up about 600 feet, and I was like, I'm gonna go hit that. So I drove over, hit it, and I'm a photographer by trade, commercial photographer, and I notice everything. I'm the kind of person who sits at the airport and stares at people, and it's not that it probably comes across as creepy, but I'm just interested in the details of life and how people look. And I noticed somebody coming down the hill. I mean, there's hundreds of people that hike Mount Rubidoux every day. I noticed one particular guy who didn't fit the mold of the usual hiker. He was kind of 80s heavy metal reject or leftover. Kind of the big hair, balding a little bit, leather jacket, cruising down. He just didn't look like the typical hiker that I see up here. And I just noted him in my head, wasn't anything other than that. I was like, that's interesting. And I kept on hiking, still in a dark, grumpy mood. I get to the top of the mountain. My attitude hasn't changed. So I'm just like, I'm gonna go home, take a nap, then I'll probably work. As soon as the sun goes down, I'll probably start editing photos or something. So I hoofed it back down the mountain. I saw the same guy that I noticed, and as I got closer to him, he looks right at me and he's like, hey man, you seen any keys on the mountain? I lost my keys. I really got to find my keys. And I was like, no, didn't see any keys. He's like, all right, man, cool. So I keep on going home. And the voice in my head was like, you should go help him find his keys. You know, if anybody can find him, you can find him. It was getting dark, and I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, it's, you know, it's a big hill. It could be anywhere. People crawl all over the rocks. They walk off trail. They could be anywhere. But I went home, and the whole time in my head, there are people who do. You know what's right, Chet. Go out there and do it. Go help him find his keys. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I lay down, and I got to go. So I grabbed my headlamp, grabbed my flashlight, put on warmer clothing, and really just arguing with myself, driving back on how foolish it is to go look for keys on basically like a 4 square mile area. So I come back to the mountain. The only car in the parking lot, or the only thing in the parking lot, is his motorcycle. So I'm like, well, he hasn't found him yet, so here we go. So I hoofed it up the hill, you know, checking nooks and crannies. I think it'd be easier to find him at night because they might pick up some light with the headlamp or my flashlight. Got up to the far north end of the mountain, and the darkest of dark, not dark thoughts, but just negative thoughts. It was like, just go home. You're not gonna find it. You're an idiot to even try. And so I sat down on a bench, and I'm just kind of like, you know, kind of reevaluating my life when this is the big thing that I'm like arguing about, is whether or not to find someone's keys, feeling kind of foolish about that to begin with. I may have even, like, you know, audibly yelled at God, like, you know, this is stupid. Like, why do I feel compelled to look for this man's keys? So I get up, and I might have even swore I kicked the ground, and I kicked the keys. The keys were covered by this gravelly dirt completely. They were completely underneath the ground. I kicked them out from under the ground, and there they were. And, like, you know, a dark veil lifted. Like, my whole day instantly changed, and I was just like, you know, giddy, because I was like, it's so absurd. And more backstory on myself. One of the most ridiculous things about me is that when I hear people that pray for their keys or their lost wallet or whatever, I always kind of roll my eyes, like, you know, I lost my keys, I was going to be late for work, and I prayed, and I opened up my eyes, and there they were, you know, whatever. That I've always been the kind of person that kind of rolls like, oh, sure, I'm sure God's real concerned about you being late for work, like maybe get up earlier, you know. So I found it odd that God used the lost keys, but that's only half the story. So I find the keys. I'm like, woo, yeah. So I grab the keys. I start hoofing it down the trail to go look for the guy. I think I was actually skipping. I was so giddy. And I see the guy, and he is, like, you know, moping, head down, shuffling, clearly dejected. And he doesn't recognize me because, you know, there were other people on the hill he was asking about. He's like, hey man, you seen any keys up there? I really got to find my keys. And I was like, you mean these? And I put them out in front of his head. He, in his eyes just like lit up, and it's pretty dark. I could see my headlamp blasting him. And he started to like well up with tears. I'm like, wow, he really needed his keys. We ended up talking for 45 minutes or an hour. His story is he had a drug-related arrest in the last year or two, had lost custody of his children to his girlfriend, had lost his job, had just recently lost his apartment. And the key that he was looking for, one of the reasons it was such a big deal is the key, I think, had a $200 deposit on it. So not only was he being kicked out of the place, if he didn't find the key, he was going to have to, you know, shell out $200 extra, which he didn't have because he didn't have a job. And he looked me dead in the eyes. He's like, I was literally on my way to go home and kill myself. And I know people throw that around sometimes, like, oh, I could kill myself. Like, that's unfortunately a thing people say. But I've actually that same year, I talked 3 people down, literally, like, talked them down from killing themselves. And I know the look, and it's the most frightening thing to see. And to see that in his eyes, like, I knew what that whole day had been for. Like, if I at any point, you know, I'm not saying that he would have gone home and killed himself if I hadn't found the keys, but maybe he would have, maybe he wouldn't have. That's not up to me. God knows that, only he knows that. But at any point in that day, if I had just kind of given up and be like, you know what, phooey on this day, like, I'm just going to stay in bed and, you know, hope that tomorrow's better. You know, to find keys by kicking them that are in the dirt, I mean, that's a miracle in itself, which is hilarious miracle based on my kind of disrespecting lost key stories. But then to have it potentially save the man's life. So I think since then, how that's kind of affected me is, for one, I try to listen to that more often. And for my skeptical brain, I'm a fairly skeptical and analytical and critical person by nature, that I can look through that whole day. If I had not gone to church, if Randy had not preached that sermon, if I hadn't have been paying, if I had been looking at my phone during that, there are people who do, the segment, if I had left church later, if I had not gone, like there's so many 30 seconds could have changed that whole story. So it's just, it's undeniable that that was a God moment, a God interaction for myself and for the man. That it's been like the greatest thing that I look to when I'm, when I see terrible things in the news, or I'm reading about the Holocaust or whatever. How can there be a God if there's all these things going on? And I think about finding something that's like, less than 5 square inches on a 3 or 4 square mile hill. None of that day was an accident. And so I feel like I need to tell people about that, and probably need to focus more on it in my own day to day. I think that would help just my general mindset on things.
What is life like after Easter? Last weekend we came and we had a wonderful celebration. We were lifted by the music, we listened to the Word, we prayed together. We went home and in the afternoon experienced the beauties of a concert that led us into deeper worship of the risen Christ. And we said, Christ is risen. And we basked in the glory of that. For a day or 2 or 3, we pondered and reflected on the realities of the risen Christ. But then, 2, 3, 4, 5 days later, life got hard. And it drove us to ask the question, what is life like after Easter? We declare that Christ is risen. And then? I think our text today helps us unpack that. It's found in the Gospel of Luke. It's the only gospel that tells the story. I think it's a microcosm. I would suggest to you it's a miniature of what life is like after Easter. It's the story of 2 disciples, Cleopas and his friend. We don't know who the friend was. Some have suggested it was Peter, Simon Peter, but that runs into trouble a few verses later when Peter is already back in Jerusalem. Others, in fact, quite a few others suggest this is Cleopas' wife. But whoever the friend is, unnamed, there are 2 disciples, Cleopas and his friend, on their way to Emmaus on the day of the resurrection. We don't know where Emmaus was. Scholars and archaeologists have tried to sort that through, and there are 2 or 3 possible locations. One is probably the most likely location because of the distance and the direction. It's about 7 miles northwest of Jerusalem. They're on their way to Emmaus. And while we don't know specifically where it was, there are people who have commented on the ideological realities of Emmaus. What maybe Emmaus stands for, such as the theologian and writer and poet Frederick Buechner, who says this. Buechner says, Emmaus is the place we go in order to escape. Wherever it is, we throw up our hands and say, just forget it all. It makes no difference anyway. Emmaus is whatever we do or wherever we go to make ourselves forget that the world holds nothing sacred, that even the wisest and bravest and loveliest decay and die, and that even the noblest ideas that humans have had, ideas about love and freedom and justice, have always in time been twisted out of shape by selfish people for selfish ends. Emmaus. And so the 2 disciples are on their way to Emmaus. And once again, I want to suggest that Emmaus and the journey to it are a microcosm of life after Easter. So let's turn to that passage, Luke's Gospel, the 24th chapter, and read the story of the two disciples on their way to Emmaus. Luke chapter 24, beginning with verse 13. It says this: Now that same day, two of them were going to a village called Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem. They were talking with each other about everything that had happened. As they talked and discussed these things with each other, Jesus himself came up and walked along with them, but they were kept from recognizing him. He asked them, "What are you discussing together as you walk along?" They stood still, their faces downcast. One of them, named Cleopas, asked him, "Are you the only one visiting Jerusalem who does not know the things that have happened there in these days?" "What things?" he asked. "About Jesus of Nazareth," they replied. "He was a prophet, powerful in word and deed before God and all the people. The chief priests and our rulers handed him over to be sentenced to death, and they crucified him. But we had hoped that he was the one who was going to redeem Israel. And what is more, it is the third day since all this took place. In addition, some of our women amazed us. They went to the tomb early this morning but didn't find his body. They came and told us that they had seen a vision of angels who said he was alive. Then some of our companions went to the tomb and found it just as the women had said, but they did not see Jesus." He said to them, "How foolish you are, and how slow to believe all that the prophets have spoken. Did not the Messiah have to suffer these things and then enter his glory?" And beginning with Moses and all the prophets, he explained to them what was said in all the scriptures concerning himself. As they approached the village to which they were going, Jesus continued on as if he were going further, but they urged him strongly, "Stay with us, for it is nearly evening. The day is almost over." So he went in to stay with them. When he was at the table with them, he took bread, gave thanks, broke it, and began to give it to them. Then their eyes were opened, and they recognized him, and he disappeared from their sight. They asked each other, "Were not our hearts burning within us while he talked with us on the road and opened the scriptures to us?" They got up and returned at once to Jerusalem. There they found the 11 and those with them assembled together and saying, "It is true, the Lord has risen and has appeared to Simon." Then the two told what happened on the way and how Jesus was recognized by them when he broke the bread. What is life like after Easter? I suggest this is a microcosm of life after Easter. In fact, I noticed 3 things that might help us answer our question, 3 realities that arise out of the journey. First of all, even after Easter, on the road to Emmaus, there will be pain. Even after Easter, even after the resurrection, on the road to Emmaus, there will be pain. You no doubt noticed where the pain became the most intense for them as they journeyed. It's in those words in verse 21, when they, speaking to the stranger who accompanied them, said to him, "But we had hoped." But we had hoped. We had our hopes set on him. We had hoped that God was moving in his life. We had thought that he was the one who would redeem Israel, but we had hoped. These 2 disciples on the road to Emmaus certainly aren't the only 2 disciples who've traveled that journey and who have spoken those words, who have felt that pain, that sorrow, that heartbroken reality. Those are words spoken by the infertile couple, who says to the doctor, "But we had hoped that we would have a house full of children, that we would hear the pitter-patter of tiny feet, that we would hear the laughter of small voices. We had hoped." They're spoken by the couple that divorces and says, "We had hoped that we would grow old together. We would experience our sunset years as a couple." They're spoken by that group, that community that planted a new church with all the dreams that they could possibly muster. We're going to change our community, change our city, change our world, and then it fractured and fell apart. We had hoped. They're spoken to by that young person who hopes to heal broken bodies, speak to broken souls, and yet continues to receive letters of rejection from medical school after medical school. Spoken by that retiring couple or couple that would like to retire. We had hoped we would have enough. We could travel together, enjoy. They're words that you have spoken at times. When life ruptures and fractures and breaks apart, we had hoped. Even after Easter, on the road to Emmaus. September 8, 1998, Tuesday evening, Loma Linda, California. Austin was 5 years old. Miranda was 2. Miranda was already down for the night upstairs. I was feeding Austin supper. Anita was upstairs in our bedroom resting. She hadn't been doing so well in the last few days. She was resting. She was pregnant. A bit down the road. When I was finishing up with Austin, I thought I ought to at least check on her, and so I ran upstairs to the bedroom, and she wasn't in the bed. So I went to the bathroom and knocked, no answer. I opened the door, and there she was, on the floor, blood everywhere. Ambulance, emergency room, miscarriage. We had hoped. What is life like after Easter? Well, on the road to Emmaus, there's still pain. There's a second reality that I notice on this journey to Emmaus. And that is, even after Easter, on the road to Emmaus, there is perplexity. Perplexity, bewilderment. A lack of the ability to understand and to see things clearly. You might miss it at first when you read, I did, but it's there. It's there. It's Jesus' question to them. Well, they don't know it's Jesus, do they? It's just the stranger that has joined them as they're walking down that road to Emmaus. The stranger joins them, and there in verse 17 says to them, what are you discussing as you walk along? What are you discussing? Discussing. It's an interesting word in the original because in the original it means to throw back and forth. To throw back and forth. I think this. Well, I think that. Well, what about this? Well, did you see that? Well, I read. Well, this rabbi says. Well, what about that other viewpoint? What are you discussing? What are you throwing back and forth as you walk on this journey? As you try to sort out all these events that have happened, as you try to put them in the context of the Scripture, as you try to understand, as you are perplexed. Walter Liefeld and David Powell in their commentary, talking about that verse and 2 or 3 right before it, say of this brief section, the scene in verses 14 to 17 is of a persistent but rather baffled attempt to understand the meaning of this most momentous weekend in history. Perplexed, bewildered. How does this make sense in the context of the plan of God as we understand it? I have to tell you that as a Christ follower, as a pastor, I have a dislike for people like me, and I have done it myself, who spout pious platitudes and easy answers and bumper sticker theology and place theological band-aids on gaping wounds by trying to provide trite, easy answers. There are some things, the answer to which the best thing we can say is, I don't know. I don't know. I'm bewildered. I'm perplexed. In the words of the writer Richard Foster, he says, we must admit at times, and these are his words, to a profound perplexity. Where is God in all of this? I think my years in chaplaincy up at the medical center, 7.5 years, squeezed out of me the pious platitudes. Standing there wanting to utter them, but knowing I can't say that. I don't know why. You, as a teenager, are now facing the rest of your life in a wheelchair. I don't know. I don't know why you, as a young woman on 9200, are coming to the end of your life and you're in your 20s. I don't know. I don't know what to say to the children in the emergency department whose father, coming home from work, is killed in a car crash. What do you say? We must admit at times that the journey to Emmaus, even after the resurrection, has perplexity. Christ is risen, and I'm bewildered. Because the truth is, sometimes to the circumstances, the trials, the challenges, and the traumas of life, the best thing we can say is, Christ is risen. He is risen. But I can't explain this. So cling to that. Christian artist and singer-songwriter, talk show host Sheila Walsh writes about such things. She says, our paradigm of what a Christian life is supposed to be hugely affects whether we become bitter or not. So many of the people I work with are dealing with disappointment with themselves, and I sure understand that, disappointment with other people, and disappointment with God because He doesn't do what we think He's going to do. I got one of the most interesting letters at the 700 Club from a young woman in her mid-20s who had cancer and MS. She said, sometimes I watch your program and I'm helped, and sometimes I want to take my shoe off and throw it through the screen. I was so fascinated by her honesty that I called her. We became friends. One day she said, one of the things I hate about what you do is you always present people whose marriages get better in 10 minutes. People who get healed. People who have the nice packaged answers. She said, what about people like me who are dying and still love God? What about people who take very few steps? But every step leaves a big impression in the snow because it costs every ounce of strength they have left. She changed my perspective, says Walsh. Christianity is not this nice, everything's going to work out okay attitude. When you think of Christ at the tomb of Lazarus, He wept because it wasn't supposed to be like this. He had spoken this beautiful world into existence, and it was so broken, so messed up. I think one of the greatest gifts we can give is just a dose of reality that life down here is disappointing, that God doesn't always give us the answers, but that He does always give us Himself. Christ is risen, and I am bewildered. What is life like after Easter? On the road to Emmaus, there's pain, there's perplexity. But on the road to Emmaus, there is also the feeling of abandonment, of aloneness, of the absence of God. Two verses I want to reread. Notice what they say, Luke 24:15 and 16. As they talked and discussed these things with each other, Jesus himself came up and walked along with them, but they were kept from recognizing him. He's there. He's walking right beside them. If you were to follow them, there are not 2 sets of footprints, but 3 sets of footprints on the path. He is with them, but for some reason, a divine veil has descended around him, so they can't see him. They can't recognize and understand he's right here. In their mind, well, Jesus is back there in the tomb. Well, I don't know if he's in the tomb actually, because our women came. I don't know about what they said, because the disciples went. They didn't see him. We don't know where he is, but what we do know, he's not with us. And the stranger says, is that so? It's interesting what New Testament scholar R.T. France says about that verse, that they were kept from recognizing him. Simple words, one sentence. The language in Greek here is quite forceful. Their eyes were overpowered. Overpowered. You can't see this yet. And the text doesn't tell us why. Why can't we see him yet? It doesn't say. But I do wonder. Jesus had something to teach them. In fact, we know from what Luke says, Emmaus, about a 7-mile journey. You read in Desire of Ages says the stranger joined them at the beginning, early on in their journey. So if we're walking along just like we normally do, and if at times we stop and engage in a more heated part of the discussion, who knows, 2, 3, 4 hours on this journey. And he wants to open to them the Scriptures and change their paradigm. Do you realize that there are some things we hear in pain that we never can hear when all is well? Do you know that there are some things we simply cannot hear when we are filled with the exhilaration and the excitement of the fact that the tomb back there is empty and Christ is risen? What about you, parent? Have you ever tried to explain a complicated math problem to your child to whom you've just given the great news that we're going tomorrow to Disneyland? As they're hopping around the room, you say, okay, now let me explain this math problem to you. Good luck with that. Their eyes were overpowered, and as they were overpowered, this stranger just starts perusing the pages of Scripture. And a light begins to dawn. Their paradigm begins to shift. They're feeling the aloneness, the abandonment of God. And he wants to enter into that. You have felt that. I have experienced that. I suppose we're all affected in some way, sometimes differently, by stress and burdens in our lives. In the years that I've been privileged to serve as a pastor at this church that I love, there have been so many wonderful experiences, and there have been also some very dark times. There have been many times when I've awakened at 2 or 3 or 4, and I just know the night's over. I can lie here but I'm not going back to sleep. So I'll often slip out of bed so as not to wake Anita and go out onto the road and walk. Walk in the darkness. Because in the darkness, no one can see your face. And ask God, where are you in this? How are we to relate to this? What are we to do with this? God, why don't you speak, reveal yourself? And right there on the streets of Redlands, I walked the road to Emmaus, where even after Easter, there are feelings of abandonment. What is life like after Easter? Well, there's pain, there's perplexity, there are feelings of abandonment, but there is also one last reality. And this one, friends, we cannot miss. It might be easy to miss it because it's contained in a small word. A word that I first became most aware of a couple of years ago. I had the privilege of speaking for the Loma Linda homecoming weekend. We were talking with the planners and others. What's the program? What's the theme? What's the focus? I was trying to sort through what to say. And it was then that through a writer named James Wells, that little word came to me. It's just a little word. But it's a word that if you read this journey to Emmaus, appears at least 5 times. Here's the word. With. W-I-T-H. With. At Wells's prodding from his pen, I started looking at this book. It started realizing that maybe Wells is right. Maybe with is the most important word in this book because it's all over this book. Time and time and time again. And it describes the reality of God and His relationship with His people. It almost doesn't matter where you open the book, you encounter it. You encounter it at the beginning of the story. Book of Genesis, there's Jacob fleeing for his life from his enraged brother. And God comes and says, Jacob, I'm with you. I'm with you. Joseph, sold by his siblings, Egyptian slavery, now falsely accused in the pit of an Egyptian dungeon. And in that chapter, where it describes that experience over and over again, the Lord was with Joseph. The Lord was with Joseph. And I finally want to say to the writer, okay, I got it. He's with him. Moses, confronting God. God, I don't even want to enter that desert with this stiff-necked group of people unless I know you're going with me. Isaiah, in the midst of a people rebelling against God, not knowing what to do because he describes the people as being sick from head to toe. And God says to him, Isaiah, fear not, for I am with you. And then a baby shrieks and squeals and screams his way into the world in a little hamlet called Bethlehem. And the name comes from the divine throne. Name him Emmanuel, God with us. And that baby will grow up to be a teacher. And before he ascends to his Father, he will give a global mandate to his followers. Go into all the world and behold, I am with you to the very end of the age. And then John the Revelator, penning his vision, sees its culmination in that moment that he describes by saying, and God himself will make his dwelling with the people. It's all through this book. And it's all over this journey to Emmaus as well. These two disciples who are certain they're alone, who are in pain, who are perplexed, who don't know where to turn. And the stranger walks with them. With them. With them. Friend, he's with you. In your pain right now. I don't know what happened this week. Something happened to somebody I know. We declared Christ is risen and we celebrated. And now, hurting, perplexed, alone? Is this life after Easter? What is life like after Easter? You know what it's like? It's like life. It's like life. Except for one thing. Christ is risen. And He is with you.
I believe in a hill called Mount Calvary. I believe whatever the cost, and when time has surrendered and earth is no more, I'll still cling to the old rugged cross. I believe that the Christ who was slain on the cross has the power to change lives today. For He changed me completely. A new life is mine. That is why by the cross I will stay. Oh, I believe in a hill called Mount Calvary. I believe whatever the cost, and when time has surrendered and earth is no more, I'll still cling to the old rugged cross. At the cross, where I first saw the light, and the burdens of my heart rolled away. It was there by faith I received my sight, and now I am happy all the day, because He lives. I can face tomorrow, because He lives. All fear is gone, because I know He holds the future. because he lives, because he lives, I can face tomorrow, because he lives, all my fear is gone, because I know he holds the future, and life is worth the living just because he lives, and life is worth the living just because he lives.
Gracious God, because Jesus lives, we can walk the road to Emmaus. We praise you for his life. We plead for his presence. Lord, walk with us, inspire us, fill us with your Spirit, so that even in the dark times, we may be gripped by your grace to the level that we don't lose hold on you. So bless us now is our prayer. In the name of Jesus, amen.
and bright, warm greetings to all of you on this another blessed Sabbath day. And right at the top of my list, I'm going to start with Nicole Schwelt. Right here, a part of our family in Southern California. 16 years old, this young lady. Congratulations, and so glad to see you there with your siblings too. God bless you. Doris and Jasmine Westerdahl, mother-daughter, birthdays on the same day, and there they are with Dad John. Congratulations. Hello, Renee Gruzensky, Arlington, Washington. So glad to greet you, lady. And there you are with your daughter and Jenny and your family. Warmest best to you up in Arlington. Hello, Debbie Litzy, Albany, Oregon. 31st birthday, young lady. Congratulations to you, and so glad to see you with members of your family as well. Gloriana Fan, Adelanto, California. 18th birthday, young lady. Warmest congratulations to you. Jansian Dingle, right here, Riverside, nearby. 14th birthday, handsome young man. Congratulations. Richard Ballman, Urbandale, Iowa. 57th birthday. Congratulations to you as I get to see you there with dear wife Julie. Renee London, are you a lucky lady there with Paul? Best congratulations on your birthday, Renee. Hello, Levi Magnalia, right here, a part of our family in Southern California. 77th birthday, sir. So glad to see you there with your dear wife and your family. Joan Harding, bless your heart, dear Joan, a part of our family here in Southern California. 92nd birthday. Best congratulations to you and Dr. George, and there with Julia and all the girls in your family. Congratulations. Amelia O, 10 years old, Amelia. We're so glad to have your family here, a part of our pastoral staff, your dad, dear mother, and your sister. Congratulations, Amelia. Cheryl Clemens, you also are a very important part of our family, there with your daughter, and a wonderful wedding experience. Congratulations, Cheryl. Ranjit and Nalini Dure, a part of our family, now marking 59th anniversary, I understand. Warmest congratulations to you folks. Dr. Lynn Bartlett and his wife, Cindy, over in Charlotte, North Carolina. 73rd birthday, sir, and warmest congratulations to you. Hello, Marilyn Herber, Dr. Herber, 88th birthday, surrounded there by your children and some of your grandchildren. Warmest congratulations, Marilyn. Hello, Betty Simcock, another one of my April 4 sisters up in College Place, Washington. So glad to see you there with dear Manford, Betty. And look at these two, but first, this one, Hazemer Cox, recently marked a very important birthday, and 66 years ago, he and Bonnie were married. Look at those young folks and see them today. Warmest congratulations to Hazemer and Bonnie Cox. Hello, Tom Stafford, my friend, my classmate, way back when, up in Vancouver, Washington now, and there he is with wife Brooke, and Brooke's dad was my pastor when I was a young fellow in Roseburg, Oregon, and there they are with a granddaughter and her husband on one of their important hikes. Ron Wisby, another dear, dear friend, we say forever and forever. Congratulations on your birthday, Ron. And there you are with dear Dolores. Oh, we miss her so much. But let's keep having birthdays, Ron. Hello, Jan McQuiston. Dear, dear part of our family here in Loma Linda. Congratulations on another birthday, Jan, and so glad to see you there with handsome Roger. All the best. Hello, Helen King. You too are a part of our family here in Loma Linda. Warmest congratulations on your birthday. Hello, Donna Garuli. Bless your heart, Donna. Happy birthday, and get to see you there with sons Evan and Ross. Ralph Watts III, president of the Hawaii Conference, there with his beautiful wife. Congratulations, Ralph. Patricia and Ralph Watts, right here in Loma Linda University Church. Congratulations on your birthday that comes just 3 days apart. Hello, Joyce Benfield up in Washougal, Washington. So glad to be reminded of your birthday, and there you are with dear Ron. Wendy Razouk. Happy birthday, Wendy. So glad to see you there with Jay on your wedding day. I love that picture because I got to be there that day. And Charles Church, Kirkland, Washington, there with dear Juliet and one of your great-granddaughters. Congratulations on your birthday, Charles. Denise Sprode. Hello, Denise. Salem, Oregon. And look at you. Wonderful grandma you are. And all the best to all of us as we anticipate God's blessing for another week.